Tonight, an effort to end the ongoing stalemate in Washington to pass a budget and limit the crippling cuts known as sequestration. Leading the charge are lawmakers from Virginia. 10 on your side's Art Kohn spoke on the phone with both Senators Mark Warner and Tim Kaine this afternoon, Art, and he joins us in the newsroom.
Yeah, Anita, Senators Kaine and Warner have both been chosen to sit on Congress's Budget Conference Committee, which meets for the first time tomorrow. Now, the committee must reach a deal on a budget for the remainder of this fiscal year to avoid another shutdown and sweeping cuts to defense spending mandated by sequestration. And guess what? They only have 6 weeks to accomplish something that Congress has been unable to do for years now. As the Budget Conference Committee prepares to meet on Wednesday, hopes are high, but expectations are low.
There's a reason this is hard. There hasn't been a divided Congress budget conference since 1986. And so this is not something that's just natural.
If we're not going to keep coming back to cutting defense, and if we're not going to keep coming back to cutting education, it's going to mean, Republicans are going to have to give on revenues and Democrats are going to have to give on entitlement reform.
The House and Senate are currently $91 billion apart on their preferred spending limits. The Senate budget contains nearly $1 trillion in tax hikes and spending increases. The House version calls for a balanced budget in 10 years by cutting $5 to $7 trillion in spending. Senator Tim Kaine says the two sides are actually not as far apart as those numbers would indicate.
Remember, the federal budget is $3.6 trillion. So the nation has a dramatic need for us to close a deal, and the difference right now in the top line number is about 2.5%.
Senator Kaine admits there are major differences in the budgets proposed by the House and the Senate, but says Congress does have some additional motivation to reach a deal to avoid more sweeping cuts to national defense.
There is an agreement in the Armed Services Committee and both sides that the sequester cuts on defense, we should not just be absorbing those for the next 8 years without trying to come up with a much better strategy.
Also motivating Congress?
I think the American people are fed up with the dysfunction. I think there's an enormous pressure on everybody in Congress.
Yeah, well, Virginia has felt the effects of sequestration more than most states have thus far. But having both of our senators sitting on the Budget Conference Committee presents a unique opportunity. You see, Kaine and Warner have a lot of examples to present to the committee about the devastating effects of sequestration, both on the economy and national defense. I'm live in the newsroom. Art Kohn.